Hello Airsoft Warrior TV, I'm Blake the Airsoft Warrior, and today we're going to take a look at the JG M4 RIS Gearbox. It's a version 2 gearbox, and we'll kind of go over some of the features it has and some of the upgrades that you could perform to it. First of all, it has a pot metal gearbox shell with, I believe, 6mm bushings. Don't quote me on that, I don't have a measuring tool for that, but I eyeballed it and it's about 6mm. You've got your, I guess we'll start with the compression system. Basically just pull it out. You got your tappet plate spring. We'll work our way from back to front. You've got a metal spring guide, your buffer tube screws into the back of here. Pretty standard version 2 spring guide. Really nothing to write home about there. You could upgrade it to a ball bearing spring guide so that your spring, when it is in the gearbox, can twist and turn on itself. Here's a Matrix SHS ball bearing spring guide that I'm going to be upgrading it with, and you can see the ball bearings right here. It allows it to turn and twist. Kind of relieves tension on your gearbox. Pull this out. You got an M120 spring in here, which will shoot at about 380 FPS, maybe closer to 360, depending on how well the compression is working. One of the funky things about this that I'll show you is you actually have the spring is actually attached to your piston head, which can be a problem because you won't be able to upgrade to a different spring if that's what you're wanting to do. They won't necessarily be compatible. You might have to make some different changes to them. But you can see kind of how it screws in there, and then when you pull this out, it's got this great big metal piece right here, and the spring is modified to fit like so, and then it fits into your piston here. So that might be something to keep in mind. You might want to upgrade your whole piston, maybe get a ball bearings piston head as well, just to upgrade that. The piston here, it's a pretty standard polycarbonate piston. Second tooth is not removed, so you may have to remove that if you're correcting your AOE, angle of engagement. The last tooth is metal, just pretty basic, and then there's the cutout notch for this little spring, I guess I'll call it like a spring holder to fit into. Basic piston head, O-ring, polycarbonate, it's ported, has 6 ports on it. Really basic, probably a part you would probably want to upgrade considering it goes under a lot of tension slamming into the front of your gearbox, or actually your cylinder head. You have we'll take a look, you have a basic tappet plate and a plastic air nozzle. It is not O-ring sealed. That might be a piece you will want to upgrade to get a little better compression. Here we have basic cylinder. It's ported for the M4 barrel length because it doesn't need all the compression. And you have a single O-ring sealed cylinder head with a little bit of padding back here. Not really. You probably want to upgrade that with some sorbethane padding if you're going to correct your angle of engagement as well. That way you have less energy transfer, less chance of your gearbox shell breaking. And moving on to the actual gearbox shell, you have your sector gear, or actually, excuse me, your bevel gear right here, and it actually has a ball bearing system right here. Allows your bushings, when they're connected, to spin just a little bit better there. Of course, you probably want to shim up this gearbox. I was actually in this JG gearbox. I couldn't actually find any shims, which is kind of crazy, but it was, you know, of course, improperly shimmed. But that's going to provide a lot of, create a lot of wear and tear on your gearbox. So something to shim, you'd want to shim it up properly. But it is nice that it has that little ball bearing right there. And our reversal latch, pretty standard. Maybe, not necessarily a piece you'd want to upgrade. One of the things you could do is right up here you could cut a little notch so that, say, a Phillips head screwdriver could fit right on top of there to kind of help you to relieve tension in your gearbox when you're going to open it up, or to just kind of help when you're putting the gears back in. Sector gear right here, there's not a sector gear clip, it's just a basic sector gear. Pretty sturdy. I've had this gun for over a year, and none of the teeth are broken. Everything seems in pretty good shape. And you also have your spur gear. Over here, I've already taken the trigger out. It's just a pretty standard version 2 trigger. Works pretty well. You have a kind of your safety mechanism right here. This stops the trigger from going forward when it's in safe. Here you have your cutoff lever that essentially moves back and forth and acts upon your sector gear. This little nub on your sector gear, let's see, right there, and provides the friction to create semi-automatic instead of full auto. Okay, one of the things that I had a problem with this gearbox was actually it involves your trigger and wire system right here. There's a little post that is supposed to go right here. It just sticks up, and apparently this is a pretty common problem with version 2 gearboxes. This actually, what it does is it creates the back pressure so that when this spring is attached to this post, your trigger assembly can't just kind of like fly off and basically disengage so it doesn't connect to the rails. And when it does that, which what happened is it broke off for me, and basically it kept it in the back position, trigger wasn't able to engage properly, and when I pulled back, so basically completely gummed up my trigger. And so this system wouldn't move forward, which obviously renders it inoperable. So that might be something you might want to look into, a little stronger material, or come up with a way to fix that when it does break. Of course, I've had this gun for about a year, so obviously things are going to break. Pretty standard wire system. Runs all the way back here. Sized to the JG system. Wired to the rear. I'll show you the wire system real quick. It has a fuse box, which is actually equipped with a really funky itty-bitty little fuse, and I think I found some of these at a hardware store, so you might want to look around and find some extra fuses to keep that from burning out. But that's your wire system that runs back. And let's see, I'll flip this over real quick. Right here you have your selector plate that moves back and forth like so. You can see these contacts right here that actually line up with your wire assembly right here. That's just an electrical safety for the JG. And if you ever replace this tappet plate, basically what I've heard you can do is just solder these together if you don't have this electrical safety here. But it is nice to have that. It's a great little extra feature. Well, I hope that gives you a rundown of the JG M4 RIS gearbox. I'll try to include the product code below so you can find it, the exact model that I'm using. Some models made by JG may be different, but this is just some parts you can upgrade, some things you can do, and I hope this helps everybody out.